Totally. I think the biggest way is it's a trap. I kind of describe perfectionism as we're seeking this golden ring and then we never can grasp it, and then we punish ourselves for not grasping it when we were never going to be able to jump that high anyway. It was always going to be above our head or above our grasp, but then we punish ourselves for not being able to achieve it. And then most of the time with perfectionism, we get back into the cycle of, I didn't work hard enough. I didn't try hard enough. It's something failing on the internal self. But then it's well, I need to try harder. And we could try the hardest possible, and it's just not going to happen just because it's not possible. So it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Hi, and welcome to The Weekly Parent, a podcast for people who Google everything, overthink most things, and occasionally spiral, wondering if they're totally screwing it all up. I'm your host, Dr. Kaya Duffy. Look, I'm not here to hand out gold stars or add one more item to your to-do list. Here at The Weekly Parent, we ask real questions of real people who, frankly, know more than we do and try to cut through the noise, filter the advice, and figure out what actually works. Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Emily Cox, a licensed professional counselor and the founder of Larkspur Therapy. She specializes in supporting women who are navigating perfectionism, anxiety, and life transitions. Emily is passionate about making mental health care more accessible and helping clients let go of unrealistic pressures that keep them stuck where they are. And I'm so excited to have her here today to talk about perfectionism, something that I absolutely identify with and have struggled with myself, access to care, and how we can model healthier mindsets for our families. So Emily, welcome. Thank you.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I would love to, if you're willing with us, to start with your story. What first drew you to therapy and to counseling this? And why did you decide to build your practice specifically around supporting women?
Excellent question. I love working with life transitions because that's what drew me to therapy and counseling in the first place as a client, is multiple life transitions throughout the lifespan. We have sometimes expectations of how things are going to look or how things are going to feel. And then when those don't match up, the reality does not meet those expectations. Sometimes we have distress along the whole spectrum of distress, of minor to major. So I experienced some of that and had some wonderful experiences with an excellent therapist. And then along some other life things happening, I kind of stumbled into the path of therapy, becoming a therapist. And I was like, yes, this sounds lovely to me. I'm leaving out a bunch of things. I work with a lot of college students, and I changed my major 12 times in college. So I understand the path of not knowing exactly what you want to be. You didn't know you wanted to be a marine biologist by the time you were 4. Totally get that, not knowing what that path is going to look like and how we're going to walk down that path. So once I started on the path to becoming a therapist, it was challenging in all the wonderful ways and then rewarding in ways I didn't even anticipate or expect. So it just keeps becoming something new and exciting every day. And there are always more things to learn and expand on and improve on. So I love that everything's different and new and exciting every day.
I'm 46 and sometimes I still feel like I don't know what I want to do when I grow up, you know? Yeah. So I very much identify with that. I was not going to be a ballerina from the time I was 4, or an astronaut, or a marine biologist. One of the things that you highlight, and we talked about this in the intro, is access and the importance of access. And for many people, mental health support can feel out of reach, either because of cost, because there is a stigma, because there's a lack of therapists to, even physically near them. And so from your perspective, what are some of the biggest barriers that people face in finding therapy, and what might help make support more accessible?
Good question. There's so many barriers. It's hard because I have a perspective of providing therapy, but then also can put myself in the other shoes of seeking therapy. I think one of the biggest barriers is navigating the systems. The systems are way too complex for anyone to navigate. There are challenges that should not be there, and they're just totally not for the benefit of health or anyone. So those kind of inhibit access because it just makes it challenging to navigate. The other thing is we don't have a lot of preventative care or proactive care. So by the time we're seeking help, we're 6 months past when we first needed it. So a lot of times we're overwhelmed, we're depressed, we're anxious, we're panicking, we're like in the middle of the muck. And so then it makes everything 10 times harder, right? So it's when we're desperately needing help and finally at the point where, yes, I'm in the vulnerable state where I'm able to ask for help and also receive help, that then, well, actually, everyone I contact is on a wait list, or I have to go through this, or I call my insurance company, which is not everyone's favorite task to do. And the insurance company gives me a list of 10 people and none of them are accepting new clients. Like, even if we were at our optimal functioning, that would be frustrating. Yeah. Or we get connected, we try some of the tech health things and it's not great care, or it's not great access, or we find someone who's great and perfect for us and then they leave the platform and we have to start all over.
Do you find that stigma around needing, wanting, receiving mental health care has changed or is changing? Do you find that to be less of a barrier than maybe it used to be some period of time ago?
Mm-hmm. It's shifting, but it's there in different ways. So some of it is kind of generational, of like younger generations are kind of kids, new adults, Gen Z, whatever we call them, Gen Alpha or a whole other breed, but whatever. They have kind of been more exposed to it throughout their lifespan. They've also had technology their whole entire lives. So they've had a lot of access to a lot of things. So it doesn't seem as foreign. It doesn't seem as beyond. They've also had a lot of access to it in media, seeing kind of depictions of therapy or, you know, what going to therapy looks like, group therapy, people checking in, a hospital unit. They kind of just know more because they've seen more. The flip side to that is they come into it with certain expectations. Or if trends happen, they're like, I'm going to come in and show you my whole PowerPoint. I've never had a client do a PowerPoint with me. But sometimes they'll all just do it because they saw it on TikTok. Or they're like, oh, TikTok says I need a therapist, so I'll get a therapist.
Wait, what goes into these PowerPoints?
Have you not seen this?
No.
Oh. So there was a TikTok trend that when people would show up to their intake, they would have a PowerPoint ready and they would screen share it with their intake. And it would be like the history of Emily or the history of Sarah. It would go over all of their traumas to like catch you up. So instead of it being like asking questions or like going through the intake assessment, they would just do a PowerPoint of here's my traumatic breakup with my boyfriend. Here's my childhood trauma. Here's how messed up my parents are. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm up to speed now. Yeah. We can continue.
So, trends can happen, but like that's the thing. If we're setting an expectation for that, sometimes then it's okay. What do we actually want to do here? What are our actual goals? And sometimes we haven't thought beyond that. We're just like, I'm going to therapy because we're supposed to go to therapy, and I'm anxious, and make me not anxious. So the stigma changes a little bit. It's lessened and feels more accessible to people. I think the stigma is lessened, but at different points in the life frame, that things are still more challenging. Especially like perimenopausal, perinatal, like postnatal stuff. It's like, well, I'm expected to like love my child and it be a magical time. And when it's not, it's like, what do you mean I should go see a therapist? What do you mean I should talk to someone about this? I should carry my hidden shame and not let anyone know that I have these thoughts. So it kind of shows up in different ways. So it's less in certain ways, but then kind of pops its head out in different unexpected ways.
Yeah. Like anything, it's nuanced is what I hear you saying. So I have often referred to myself as a recovering perfectionist, and I think that perfectionism is often praised. It's like it's suggestive of ambition and that you're driven and, you know, motivated. But of course, we know that it also comes with a cost. So in your experience and from your perspective, what are some of the ways that perfectionism can hold people back, where loosening that or setting it down for a while actually can be beneficial?
Totally. I think the biggest way is like it's a trap. Like I kind of describe perfectionism as like we're seeking this golden ring and then we never can grasp it, and then we punish ourselves for not grasping it when we were never going to be able to jump that high anyway. it was always going to be above our head or above our grasp, but then we punish ourselves for not being able to achieve it. And then most of the time with perfectionism, we get back into the cycle of, I didn't work hard enough. I didn't try hard enough. It's something failing on the internal self. So then it's like, well, I need to try harder.
Mm.
And we could try the hardest possible, and it's just not going to happen just because it's not possible. So it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of, I'm a failure to achieve perfection, and perfection is not possible to achieve anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's hard for people to put that down because we're in a very productivity, capitalism-based culture where it's like, go, 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 work, 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 hard, hard, hard. A lot of times people get validation as a direct response to the amount of work they put in or their outputs and their effort. So then it's like, well, if people aren't validating me on just being a human or the qualities that I possess or connect to, they're validating me based on what I can provide. Well, then I need to provide the best I possibly. I need to provide better than anyone could ever expect because that's what I'm expecting of myself, and that's impossible. But then we still have the feelings of it. When you release that expectation or grasping for that golden ring, then you kind of release some of that exhaustion and release some of that expectation. Because you're not expecting this to happen, you kind of release the chains that have been holding you back. So it feels counterintuitive because it's like, what do you mean? I have to be perfect or else? There's a lot of extremes of I have to be the best ever. I'm the worst ever.
Yeah.
I have to be the most amazing mom in the world. I'm the worst parent to ever exist. I am horrible to my children. I have to be the most incredible human that's ever lived. I'm a disgusting swamp creature. The biggest thing for perfectionists I do is be mediocre, be average. It's not the end of the world. The sky doesn't come crashing down. We don't have to do it forever, but being mediocre is then, if we live in that, it's oh, not everyone turned around and pointed at me and told me they hated me. Oh, that's what I thought was going to happen. Okay, I can have moderation. Wow, this is amazing.
I really like that perfectionism lives in extremes. Is there something that you, if you're working with people that are struggling through this, is there a mantra that you give them that can be remember, and maybe it just is saying to themselves, in any situation that they're showing up to, today I'm going to try just being moderate, average, middle, mediocre. That's better. Mediocre. I like that word.
I
better.
do those just because then I work on reflecting of what that brings up. So mediocre can be activating. So what does that bring up? Well, if I'm not number one, then everything's terrible. Then it's unpacking all of that and processing all of that. Sometimes with students or new adults, I'll do do the C, take the C+ and go. Because a lot of times there's an overlap between ADHD and perfectionism. People are like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I don't know where my keys are. How am I a perfectionist? But it's I'm not going to start the task unless it's the best thing ever. I can't start the paper unless it's the most genre-defying paper I've ever written. I won't do the assignment unless I know it's going to be the best assignment and I'm going to get the best grade in the class. So then that becomes a cycle of procrastination, and I'm not going to do it unless I can be perfect at it. I can't bear for people to perceive me not being ideal, so I'd rather fail than not be perfect. So then I'm do the C, take the C. It's going to be a C+ assignment. Okay, it's going to be a C-. Take it and move on to the next thing, because then we're building that internal distress tolerance of not everything has to be A+. Not everything has to be ideal. So when I first mentioned that to a lot of folks, they're like, I'm not sure about that. But then it's kind of sitting with that and resonating with that. We've built up these defense mechanisms through layers. So they're not going to be dismantled overnight, but it's also building in that okay, this was created to shield me or protect me in some way. Do I need this level of protection anymore? Or is it still shielding me? Or is it keeping me from engaging with life in the way that I want to?
Yeah. My husband and I and our 3 kids live in a college dorm. 600 students live in this residence hall with us. They're called residence halls now. They were called dorms when I went to college, but spend a lot of time around college students. And I do think there is this sense that the now is so important. The A right now is so important. Last night, my husband asked me, did you ever have a 4.0 semester in college? And I really had to think about that. I don't remember what my grades were, right? But it feels, a single test even feels like make or break right now. And so it's just interesting, time does this, perspective does this. We can say it is not the end of the world. The C plus is fine. Take it, move on, do the next thing. There is so much more to life. Maybe it really truly is just time, but I wonder if there are other things that you share with clients that help give them that perspective that what to me right now feels like only time can give.
Right. Some of that depends on like lifespan developmental stuff. Especially with college students, it's developmentally appropriate for everything to feel huge because in that stage of our life, we're getting into independent living, independent learning, who we want to be. A lot of freshmen in college don't have a clue who they are. A lot of them are super defined, but a lot of them are like, this is my first time living away from home. This is my first time interacting with people who are not from my hometown. This is my first time trying new cuisines or new experiences or trying stuff out. That's why college is kind of a nice time of life because like you get to play in the sandbox. Developmentally, it's appropriate to be like, you mean I have to take medication for the rest of my life? You mean if I don't pass this chemistry course, the rest of my life is going to be ruined? Everything feels intense because it is. And so it's hard to like have that full perspective. The loaf isn't fully cooked yet. So like we're still baking in there. So it's okay to like have those intensities. A big piece for me is like learning the self-regulation tools around those intensities. So it's not trying to like moderate the life experience, but moderate like the internal regulation. Life can be like on fire. There can be lots of things happening, but I can handle this. The knowledge that I got this. This is hard. I don't like it. This is not like fun. I don't enjoy the breakup. I don't enjoy like procrastination and failing out a semester, but I also know that I can handle it. It's going to suck, but like, no, I can get through this. I am capable of taking the steps to resolve XYZ. So I think that's the biggest piece is having that internal like sense of self and internal sense of being able to handle the things that life throws at us.
So a lot of people who will be listening are parents and may have slightly younger kids. I have 3 teenagers myself. How can I model this for them? How can I be an active participant in helping them to develop those skills, those exact skills that you're talking about, and that kind of internal monologue that is supportive of being able to withstand these bumps and these challenges?
Excellent question. Some of it starts a little bit younger, so primary to middle school age, so 9 to 13-ish, is like just modeling it and just being like, I'm overwhelmed right now. I need to take some deep breaths because I'm feeling a little anxious. Ooh, that moment in the car was kind of overwhelming. I need to kind of listen to a song that makes me feel better. Sometimes it resonates with them, sometimes it doesn't, but it's just those little things. It's just modeling and showing that like not everything is the end of the world, not everything is a huge crisis, not everything is sky is falling, but like we can have complex emotions and still manage and navigate through them. We can feel all the different colors of the rainbow. We can feel all the different things. We can still take care of ourselves whether we're having the best day ever or the worst day ever. As they get older until more teen, young adult years, then they can kind of have their own experience of it and kind of try out their own things. Sometimes they don't like the modeling as much because they're like, that's the teen experience.
There are some big eye rolls, yes.
Yes. And I was like, no, Mom, I'm not going to take deep breaths with you. But like, they're still listening. Sometimes they don't want to participate, but they're still sponges soaking it up. So that's more allowing them the space to try out their own techniques and try out their own strategies. That might be connecting with friends. That might be watching an episode of Bluey. That might be having their squishy stress ball. That might be, whatever is helpful to them, but giving them the space to try out different things. The thing that is most helpful with teen stuff is reflecting back. Wow, that squishy really helps you. Or, ooh, it seems like we really like this scent in our area. Or, oh, that's a really cozy blanket. Maybe we just need some cozy time. There's an overlap between toddlers and teenagers in terms of like sensory seeking and being able to communicate their needs. Sometimes they're so overwhelmed by all the intensity of the emotions or the intensity of what's going on for them internally that they're not as great as communicating about things in the moment. And that's where the reflection can help. Sometimes they're going to respond to it because that's how they do and that's how they learn. But sometimes it's like, oh, I'm allowed to be cozy. Oh, I'm allowed to take a break. Oh, I need to drink a water. Oh, okay. And then that kind of builds in the tools that then they can process that and take it on into more young adult land.
That feels very manageable. Helping to, yes, a model. I talk about modeling when it comes to eating, we need to model the kinds of behaviors we want our kids to have, but also to be a part of reflecting for them. I really like that. You mentioned, and I had to smile, and I have to share the story. You mentioned feeling all the colors of the rainbow. It reminded me, I hadn't thought about this in years, but I have saved it. Mm-hmm. My son, when he was in preschool, he must have been like 4 at the time, because it was his last year of preschool before starting school. They made a book where they had people and they colored them every color of the rainbow. And then they said, red makes me feel. And he described feelings associated with every color of the rainbow. Red makes me feel anger. And I was like, oh, okay. Orange makes me feel anger. And then it was yellow. Yellow makes me feel anger. The only one that he didn't write angry or some kind of like sad, angry kind of feeling for was gray. And I remember getting this book and I thought, oh boy, what have we done?
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's also, that's a perfect example of like sometimes in parenting, people get things back from and they're like, if you're like, where did I take a step wrong? Like, I have messed up this kid. And like,
he's 4. What happened?
He's 4, but also like, he's 4. He was just like angry. That's the only one he could think of. Or he was like, can I just like do this and then go play with Play-Doh? Like, we don't know what's happening in like toddler brain. So like, that's totally developmentally appropriate. Or like, you ever see those things where they have to put together a turkey and everything's in the wrong space, but they're like, here it is.
Yeah.
Here's my turkey with its legs on its head. And it's like, great. You did a great job. Wonderful. Look at all those shapes and colors. So he did angry. Great. You have identified anger. Yeah. What a wonderful job, small toddler. Like, as adult, as parent, we're like, I've done something horribly wrong. And they're like, oh, can I have a snack now?
Exactly right. I had to tell myself, this is not a reflection on you.
Nope. This is developmentally appropriate.
Yeah. And he definitely was a kid who would like, I want to do the thing that I've been told I have to do because I've been told I have to do it, but I want to do it as quickly as possible so I can go do what I want to do. Yeah.
I want my preferred activity.
That's right. So, you've touched on this a little bit. I think that some people feel like therapy is for when things are really bad. Like you have to get to a point for therapy to really be helpful. And that has not been my personal experience. And I would take a guess that you might also feel like therapy is not just for the times when things are really bad. But what would you say to someone who wonders if their struggles are really bad enough or big enough to seek help?
I think nothing bad enough for therapy. It doesn't have to get to a like threshold point. At what point do we deprive ourselves of support? At what point do we deprive ourselves of care? So sometimes flipping it and thinking of it that way, sometimes it's hard to like prioritize our own needs, or happens with perfectionism a lot, is like diminishing our own needs. I could talk forever about like perfectionism and people pleasing overlap. I'm good. I'm going to give to everyone else. Like I'll light myself on fire to keep everyone warm. So if a friend was struggling with something, or if a friend were just like kind of stuck in the mud, or that like don't know what path to take, like what would we tell to friend? And then it's like, what is so hard about taking our own advice, or just like listening to our own advice, not even taking it. Of being like, if we would tell a friend, like, of course, like you're always deserving of care. You're always deserving of support. You're always deserving of whatever help we need, whether it's a 10-foot ladder, whether it's a step stool, either one is available to us. So sometimes it's getting over that initial barrier of, hey, I am deserving of care. I am deserving of support. I'm deserving of help in whatever way that help is there. Do I have to be at the higher end of the spectrum or higher end of the need continuum and have to have care, or just things are overwhelming. Things are hard. Things are challenging for me. Everything's relative. So it's not, I have all these horrific trauma. I don't hate my parents intensely. Okay. Would you still benefit from having a safe therapeutic space to process things? Potentially. Am I deserving of care? Am I deserving of support? And would I like this space to use it, and how it would be helpful to me? Those are just the baseline questions of, is that something that sounds appealing? And well, then that might be something that therapy could be helpful with.
So if someone did find themselves in a place where they wanted this, and I think let's stick with perfectionism. It seems like so I'm feeling really stuck by this. The therapist that has been recommended to me, I have a 6-month wait list, and so I'm patiently waiting. It's coming. It's I'm not in crisis. What is one small thing that I could do, one simple step that I could take now and regularly until that 6-month window came and I got to, fully process it with someone, that might help me like feel the loosened grip of what perfectionism may be doing to me. Like, is there something that we could practice regularly?
Mhm. It's such a good question that has such a complex answer. There's so much to unpack in perfectionism that it's like hard to be like, here are some easy tools, because it also is so different of like what brings people to it. The other thing with perfectionism specifically is that like a lot of people don't come to therapy for perfectionism. They come to therapy for anxiety or executive functioning skills management. Then through that conversation, it's like we kind of have high expectations of self. Most of the but in terms of small things that we can do in terms of managing anything until we can get into ideal therapists, the biggest things would just be mindfulness tools, whichever ones are helpful for us. A lot of stuff is happening in brain space. So anxiety lives in the unknown. Anxiety likes to fill the blanks, and it's like, all the worst things can happen. So sometimes it's getting out of brain space and into body space. That doesn't have to be an hour and a half intensive yoga class or 2 hours of Pilates. It can be 3 minutes of breathing or just 3 minutes of being outside and looking at the birds. Whatever is kind of soothing and regulating for us in little bits, because the body stuff can be really activating for a lot of folks for a lot of different reasons. So it's not like you are forced to be in your body. You have to meditate and be silent for 10 minutes. It's like, no, little bits, little chunks of time, little guided meditation. If we can kind of have a little bit of that, it can give a little bit of the relief. The other thing I tell people is incrementally say, if our concern or our distress is like an 8, we're not looking to go to 0. We're not looking to go to 2. We're looking from like 8 to 6. So small incremental changes that then kind of build up that internal distress tolerance and then build up that internal resiliency of, I don't like this. This sucks, but I can help it a little bit. It can get to where like I'm not off the ledge anymore.
Yeah. Those are really, really, I was just about to say easy. They're not easy, but they are simple.
Yeah.
In terms of how to describe them. And I really like that. That is that can be useful.
I'll give another plug. I am not affiliated with this at all, but I just recommend it to everybody because I think it's adorable. The Finch app, Finch. It's like a self-care app. The plus version, you just get more like outfits and like cute things, but everything you need is in the free version. You have a little egg and you hatch your little egg and have your little bird. And then the more you do, your bird goes on adventures, your bird grows up, your bird can have outfits, your bird does things. What I like about the Finch app is that it's really approachable and adaptable. So like you could set the goals to whatever. You could set the goals to run a marathon every day. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, whatever. So like your goals can be like go outside, walk around the neighborhood, tell someone I love them, like call my mom or cook healthy meal for self. Like can have different areas and different things, what we're working on. But we can make them really adaptable and really small, which are helpful, especially when we're in extremes of going into that duration. You can make up all your own custom goals. So it kind of approaches it that way. There's also a mood check-in element to it. So the more you use it, the more you can get the data on the back end and then see what times of day are hard, what times of the week are hard, what times of year are hard. So I'm not paid, I'm not affiliated, I don't get a kickback, but what I like it gives you, I used to tell people about coping skills menu of 3 to 5 things instead of the Pinterest 100 coping. So Finch kind of gives a good idea of, I really like this reflection thing, I want to start journaling. I hate reflection, don't ever make me do it. Okay. I really like this deep breathing thing, it was great. I hate deep breathing, don't make me do it. Okay, like here's all these other things that you can try. And then kind of gets that building that awareness of, this is a really hard time right now, or I'm feeling really good. You can go as deep into it as you want to, or 30 seconds a day of checking in terms of like management things to do while we're waiting. And then when we get into therapy land, then it's helpful stuff to share with therapists. Oh, I noticed this, or I was reflecting on this, or I started this in the Finch app and then I realized, I really like this kind of grounding technique and I want to learn more about. Then y'all can talk together about other resources and tools.
It's really helpful. I think sometimes this has come up a number of times recently, even for me. It's I have a sense that something is a particular way. And once I start gathering some data on it, it really gives me, it either confirms or disputes the idea that I have, but getting that data is really useful. And this is some of what this does for you. Yeah, I like that. What is one message that you hope people will carry with them about mental health and perfectionism? That feels like that's a huge question. You can be like, I don't like that question.
The cheesy answer is help is out there, support is out there. It's available, even though it feels impossible. The other one would just be that we have the answers within us a lot of the time. They're there. So therapy shouldn't be an exploratory surgery of getting in there and digging all around. Ideally, it should be a mirror that is just helping reflect all your strengths back to you, or reflect what we have hidden or stored within us back to us. So that sometimes when we're thinking of getting into therapy, it's like, that sounds awful. Talking about my trauma, that sounds like no fun. And ideally, it shouldn't be this like horrific, painful, like forging fire. It should be something that is hopeful, but also like restorative and regenerative and transformative in a way that is empowering.
It's a great message. I love that. I mean, it doesn't matter what I think about it, but personally, I love that. If people wanted to learn more about you, to connect with you, where would they do that? How could they do that?
The best way to reach me is my website, larkspurtherapy.com. All of the blog posts are Taylor Swift lyrics. I'm going to keep doing on that. That's the best way to reach me. It has all my contact info there. Anything that you have questions about or want to learn more about. One thing, we were talking earlier about access to care, that if we are on a wait list, I always tell people when we're contacting therapists or counselors, asking if they have any other people to connect to or referrals. Because sometimes we can wait, sometimes we can't. I personally know a whole bunch of therapists that have like openings. I know like if I can't get connected to me, we can connect you to other people. Same thing, wherever we are, whatever therapists we're connecting to, of like, hey, do you know of anyone that has openings right now? Hey, do you know of anyone who would have a similar or approach that would have more recent openings? Most people, we just want to get the support and the help out there. So it's trying not to be as much of a barrier as it is a lot of the time. It's just like getting to the right person and getting to the right support.
That's a great reminder. Thank you for bringing that up. Are you currently accepting new patients? And can you see, is it just patients in North Carolina that you can treat?
I can treat patients in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and Vermont.
Okay. All right. That's good. Good for our listeners to know. Thank you for taking the time, Emily. It was a joy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for hanging out with me on The Weekly Parent. If something you heard today made you think, laugh, or feel just a little more human, don't be shy. Subscribe, text it to your BFF or group chat, or leave us a review. Remember, you'll find free tools, downloads, and whatever else I've cooked up this week in the show notes. Check those out. Parenting is messy. Let's not do it alone. See you next time.